Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for the Gameweek 37 strategy stream. How is everyone doing? I imagine there's a few happy Salah owners in the chat today. A few happy Trent Alexander-Arnold owners as well. Unfortunately, I am one of those two things, but not the other. But still, pretty good game week so far from me. I can see in the chat some of you guys are absolutely killing it as well. I'm seeing 90 plus pointers in the chat, which is absolutely ludicrous. I think I'm on, hang on, let me just double check. I'm on 84 points so far. Still one game to play, six players to play as well. It's pretty big. It's pretty big. It's a good week, and that's due in part to Callum Wilson captaincy. Man, has that paid off so far. I do think Isaac may destroy us Wilson captainers a little bit later on during the week, but for now, we will enjoy being ranked in the place that we are currently ranked. But yes, nice green arrow for me, 74k at the moment. It went down a little bit due to that Salah haul, but I mean, aside from that, it's pretty good. I've got a bit lucky here with Edison 8-pointer off the bench, but we will take what we can get. Nikhil in the super chat says, Trent and Estupinian killing me. I want to strangle myself. Nikhil, please don't strangle yourself. Please don't. There's so much to live for. The season's almost done. If you're suffering this year, don't worry. We've only got 2 game weeks left, but yeah, I can see again in the chat, we've got 80 pointers, 90 pointers. It's beautiful, guys. I think we're going to have a few 100 pointers this week. Hopefully I can join that club, but I'm sure some of you guys will be joining that club as well. So, guys, we have got FPL to talk about today, so we are going to do that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that's what we're here for after all. So, yeah, first of all, let's talk about some of the injuries that potentially we do have. So I'm going to go on my pick team page for next game week, and you can perhaps see some particular, I don't know, crispy snacks, some potato chips snacks kind of on screen. Actually, wait, hang on. I'm making a Dorito of death joke here, but a Dorito's actually made of potatoes, or are they corn? I never know. Some crisps are made out of corn, aren't they? Don't know what Doritos are made out of. Let's assume they're potatoes. But we have got some triangular shaped potatoes of different varieties of spice. We've got the extra cool yellow Dorito of death next to Martinelli, and we've got a slightly spicier kind of flavour of Dorito next to our Marcus Rashford here as well. Both with those exclamation marks on, which isn't particularly good news. It remains to be seen what we're going to be kind of seeing in terms of whether these players are going to be available or not. We need to get a bit of news. I've not seen anything so far. So I feel like we do need to have an idea perhaps of some replacements, but I don't think it's guaranteed that we will need them necessarily. But Martinelli, I'm not sure the extent of the injury. Rashford, it was touch and go last week to an extent. I think it was that Rashford was, a very big question mark according to Ten Hag for game week 36. Obviously, game week 37 is a week after. They don't play the first fixture until Saturday, so that is kind of almost a week's difference there between the two fixtures. They are made of corn, by the way. Oh, thank you, guys. I won't say that Doritos are made out of potatoes any time again. They're made out of corn. There we go. But yeah, so yeah, you would kind of think, based on the fact that Rashford was a question mark last game week, maybe that means that he is less of a question mark this game week. Don't know. Difficult to say. Difficult to say at this exact moment. But I think we can start looking at some replacements anyway. I think we'll probably be looking at Man City players. That's what I do want to look at in particular today. But I think there is a lot of implications with Man City players as well that we do need to discuss. Yeah, thanks guys. Everyone talking about corn in the chat. I mean, it's good. It's good to go a little bit off topic to get some of the light-hearted stuff out the way. But yeah, we've got some corn-flavored snacks in my team. I don't know about you guys. Have you got any corn-flavored snacks? Corn produce on your pick team pages as well. Perhaps you do, perhaps you don't. We're going to go on Fantasy Football Hub Opta Stats tool, and we're going to have a wee little look at some midfielder replacements regardless. And I do want to look at Man City players in general before we do that, because I feel like, I don't know, are most of you guys possibly on a similar page to me where you're already tripled up on Man United, you're already tripled up on Brighton, and you maybe doubled up on Man City, you want to get that one more Man City player into your team, or maybe you're trying to get a Manchester United player in your team. But if that's the case, then Luke Shaw and Fernandes are your friends. There are a few other options that we might have a look at later on in the stream as well. But I do want to have a look at Man City first. So I'm going to search Man City. We're going to change the game week range. I'm going to go from game week 30. That gives us a little bit of a range. And I'm going to order by expected points total. And obviously, Erling Haaland is way out in front. In fact, in terms of expected points, Erling Haaland has pretty much almost double the amount of second place. Have I worked that out right? Yes, I have. Yeah, so Erling Haaland almost double the amount of expected points during this period of the second best, which is Akanji, interestingly. Not really sure how Akanji has got so high. I guess that's just because he's played a lot of games and then therefore has access to a lot of potential clean sheets, which haven't always come off for Man City. We've seen a lot of the time the Man City clean sheets are not really coming off. But Akanji, he's started 5 during this period, benched for 2, or had bench appearances for 2. One small problem with Akanji is that he is a player who does tend to get substituted on, isn't he? So, yeah, if we just look through these recent games. Okay, so yeah, pretty much 90 minutes in most games, but then we've got the West Ham game, had a little sub appearance there, played the second half of that Leicester game. Was that when Stones got subbed off potentially in that game? I can't remember now. But yeah, there's a few sub appearances here, but he does seem to be reasonably nailed on, if there is any such thing. Going through some of the other kind of Manchester City players that we might be thinking about. Grealish is always good, a player who's been playing pretty regularly, although we have had some benchings recently. Gundogan has been flying recently. Absolutely flying recently. Has anyone owned Gundogan during this period? I know I haven't, but it seems like a lot of people are going to be going for Gundogan, but I do want to point something out here. And I don't know if you guys are going to like this or not, because I know a lot of people are looking at Gundogan, but if we look at this Gundogan kind of... what are they called? What's the opposite of a column? Row. If we look at the Gundogan row, you can see that his XG during this period is 1.85, and he's got 4 goals in that period. And also included in this 1.85 was a penalty as well. So actually, his non-penalty XG, and we'll verify this now, but his non-penalty XG over this period is 1.08. So he's got 4 goals with 1.08 expected goals. Is that sustainable? That is 4 times his XG. He's overperforming by 4 times. There has not been a player in the history of football that has been able to do that. You know, even Messi, or if we're talking about the Premier League, Erling Haaland or Heung-min Son, players like that, Callum Wilson, these elite finishers, they don't get close to that. They do not get close to that. So something that does need to be considered is, will Gundogan be able to consistently overperform by that amount? Will he be on penalties in the future? Probably not, I would say. It looked like he was just taking that penalty to complete his hat-trick kind of thing in that game where he did take the penalty. So I'm not really sure. It seems like it's a big overperformance. So I am a little bit worried about the sustainability of Gundogan. So definitely understand the kind of... the idea to knee-jerk Rashford to Gundogan based on Gundogan's recent performances and based on the fact that Gundogan obviously has a double game week as well. I mean, like, guys, just look at the transfers in. Gundogan is way out in front. 154,000 transfers in already. Again, almost double Luke Shaw's and Fernandes's, which is just insane. It really is insane how popular this player is right now. I imagine as we get through the week, we will see Gundogan die off a little bit in popularity, just because, you know, the kind of people who make early transfers are usually the same kind of people who just transfer in whoever got the most points last game week without thinking into too much detail, which is what nerds like us are unfortunately tasked with the job of doing. So we're going to nerd out a little bit here. We've already established that Gundogan is massively overperforming. We've established he's not going to be on penalties in the future. But a final factor that I think is really, really important is the fact that Gundogan might be rotated. And this is not unique to Gundogan. We've got a big situation here. So let's bring up Man City's fixtures. Just to give you an idea of what the situation is. So next up, they play against Real Madrid. Huge game to try and get through in the second leg of the semi-finals. So they're going to, you imagine, play their strongest team or their preferred 11. So we're going to see the likes of Haaland, Grealish, De Bruyne, John Stones in there. You know, a lot of players like that. And then after that, we've got Chelsea. Now, technically, if Arsenal lose, I think it's if they lose, or maybe if they draw as well. Can't remember. But Man City can technically win the league before they even kick off against Chelsea on Sunday. They can win the league. So any plans that are in this game, maybe there could be some rotations, maybe some early substitutions. I'm not exactly sure exactly what's going to go on here, but regardless, you imagine that at least by the end of this game, the league is going to be done, sorted, finished, complete, right? Due to that, are we then going to see some heavy rotation against Brighton? I think so. I think we're going to see rotation against Brighton from Man City if the league is sewn up. Then, against Brentford, I think a lot of the starting players will come back in because we know what Pep Guardiola's like. He likes to get people, get his players in a rhythm, playing regularly, ready to go. He doesn't rest players for the sake of it. He rests players to kind of, give them a little bit of a break, but he still wants to keep the momentum going with his main players. So I imagine that we'll get a reasonably strong 11 against Chelsea. Not super strong, not necessarily the first 11, if there even is such thing for Man City, but a really strong team there. A weak team against Brighton, back with a strong team against Brentford to build up that momentum to the FA Cup final. And then we could be seeing a European Cup, a Champions League final after that as well. So, in that sense, we have our Man City players in danger. They are in danger. And I think that's a really, really unfortunate situation when so many of us are looking to get Man City players. Which one is going to play 2 games? Is there any, particularly in the attacking positions, are there any Man City attackers that you guys honestly think you would be confident in saying they will play both games? I don't think De Bruyne will. I don't think Grealish will. I think Gundogan and Mahrez have a chance. I think Alvarez has a chance because I don't think Alvarez is necessarily part of the Champions League first 11, I would potentially say there. It's going to be Haaland and De Bruyne playing in that game, which Alvarez can play technically in there as well. But you imagine Alvarez gets a rest on Wednesday. And by the way, guys, it should be said that maybe we do need to wait until after that Champions League game to make a decision. But Gundogan, Mahrez, Alvarez, and probably not Foden. After that is kind of difficult to say. Diaz potentially. Not Edison. I mean, even Edison. I'm not confident about Edison. Are you guys? I think Edison, if the league is wrapped up after the Chelsea game, I can't see Edison playing in that second fixture. I can't see him playing in it because I think that Pep's going to give an opportunity to another goalkeeper to kind of allow them to get that Premier League winners medal, I guess. Akanji potentially as well. And I think if we are just specifically looking here, I mean, maybe Erling Haaland in this as well. It's usually pretty... Okay. Outside of these players, I'm going to show only selected players. I'm not really... I'm very, very not confident about any players outside of these playing both games. I think it's less likely than likely that they'll play both games, other than these 6 players. And therefore, if we're targeting double game week 36 players, or double game week 37 players from Man City, these are the guys. Haaland, Gundogan, Mahrez, Alvarez, Diaz, and Akanji. Now, if we already got Erling Haaland. If you don't, you're crazy. You are crazy. So I don't know about that. Outside of that, Diaz, Akanji, I imagine a lot of you guys already got a defender from Man City, or a defender or a goalkeeper. Maybe you have Grealish as well. Could Grealish be potentially sold here? But if we're looking for attackers, are these 3, Gundogan, Mahrez, Alvarez, are they the 3 to go for? I think they could be. Kyle in the chat says Bernardo Silva. Not sure. Not convinced by that. Nosrel says Calvin Phillips and Scott Carson to get winners medal for all their hard work warming up the bench. It's probably going to happen. They're probably going to get a few minutes. They probably will. But yeah, Gundogan, Mahrez, Alvarez. I think if I was looking to bring in new Man City players, this is where I'd be looking. Now I can see in the chat, guys, some of you guys have got Grealish, some of you guys got Stones already, and that's fine. Would I be looking to buy those players right now? No. Would I keep those players? Possibly. Because remember, there's still game week 38. And I imagine that we'll get a reasonably strong lineup from Man City against Brentford in 38, which is going to include Grealish, which is going to include Stone. So for that reason, maybe. But yeah, I know I have just kind of alluded to the fact that Gundogan is overperforming. But something that I kind of picked up on earlier when I was doing research for my tier list video is that Gundogan, despite the fact he is overperforming, when you look at him compared to some of the other attacking options from Man City, his numbers still are better. So maybe if you remove the penalty XG, that changes slightly. But aside from that, it's still not too bad. Like 1 expected goal, almost 1 expected assist in the space of 5 games. That means you're probably going to get an attacking return from him on average on a double game week if he plays both fixtures, which would be pretty good. Mahrez, by the way, also overperforming on his XA, but when you play with Erling Haaland, it's quite easy to overperform on expected assists. It really is. Just pass to Erling Haaland and watch him put it in the back of the net. He doesn't need much of a chance to do that. But it's interesting. Gundogan, his positioning has been amazing. Mahrez is going to be on free kicks, I guess. Could potentially be on penalties if Erling Haaland is rested. I think Mahrez and Erling Haaland, the two kind of penalty takers in this Man City team. I think, personally, I am leaning towards Mahrez for that third Man City slot, for that second Man City attack. I'm leaning towards Mahrez more so than I am Gundogan at the moment. I don't know what you guys think about that. There may be some differing opinions, but I think these 6 players would be the only 6 players from Man City I would consider buying this week. And if you've already got Erling Haaland, the second best is, to be fair, possibly a defender, because you imagine, like, you look at these fixtures, we've got Chelsea at home, Brighton away. That Chelsea at home game, good chance of a clean sheet, you'd say, in there. Chelsea, do struggle to find the back of the net. I know they scored a couple of goals at the weekend, but yeah, let's remember the context they were playing against Forest. But yeah, Brighton game, potential clean sheet, maybe not so likely. Brighton like to score a goal, don't they? So I wouldn't be particularly backing it against that. So yeah, Brighton could be scored against though, but then so can Chelsea. I don't know. I'm leaning towards Mahrez, but I think Gundogan is also pretty good. Dara in the chat says, can you wish me luck for my biology GCSE tomorrow? Dara, absolutely. Good luck, my friend. I'm sure you're going to absolutely smash it. Biology, by the way, very interesting topic. I'm a big fan of biology. Always, when I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan. I do watch a lot of biology videos. Nature particularly fascinates me. The body, evolution, the body videos. That sounds a little bit sus when I say it like that. I like to watch videos about the body. No, I mean, like, I don't know, blood cells, lungs, that kind of thing. We've gone off topic. Ilkay Gundogan though, yeah, I like him. I do like him as a pick, but as I kind of often say on this channel, sometimes a player is really popular and they are still good, but maybe they are overhyped. You can still be a good pick and an overhyped pick. And I think that is potentially what Gundogan is right now. So I can see this temptation. I can see people looking at the 2 most recent scores and looking at a double game week, but with the fact that, he does get rotated, didn't play minutes against West Ham, didn't play minutes against Leicester. He has been playing reasonably regularly outside of that. So, in that second game in the double game week, you just don't know what's going to happen. So, yeah, that's probably all I'm going to say on Man City for this stream. Quick look at Manchester United, though. I do think that is definitely a team I'll be looking to triple up on, no matter what. No matter what happens, I will be I would make sure you do that. So, over the past game weeks, Fernandes been killing it. Really, really unlucky not to get more attacking returns. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is insane. I've never seen a more unlucky FPL asset than Fernandes. It's been a tragedy owning him. It really has. But in the past 6 game weeks, I think I've got this set to 6 expected assists, 2.7 expected goals. Fernandes has been on fire. So unlucky. So unlucky not to get FPL returns. It's actually insane. To the point where I feel like Fernandes genuinely could be a captain option. If you don't think Haaland is going to get full minutes over the double, you know for a fact Fernandes is. I think United are a slightly different situation to Man City in the fact that they have a lot to play for still. They've got to lock down top 4. And they play against Bournemouth. Lovely game. Chelsea at home, lovely game. 2 amazing fixtures against teams with nothing to play for anymore. When they have so much to play for, you know the players that they have, certain players will be super nailed on. Fernandes is a no-brainer to get into your team. He really is. Antony looks good as well. I think a potential Rashford replacement. If it comes to it, we need to replace Rashford. Antony has been putting up some really good numbers. Again, maybe slightly unlucky not to get as many FPL returns as he possibly could have done. 2.44 XG there with just the 1 goal. So he has been putting up the numbers. 25 shots during this period. 14 in the box, 4 big chances. That is very, very good. Ideally, we still would like Rashford, who's putting up some good numbers despite less games. In fact, let's go per start just to get a better idea. I'm going to hide low minutes players as well. But yeah, so Rashford, if he's available, if he's fit, if he's starting, he is putting up better numbers than Antony. Not as good as Rashford, not as good as Fernandes, but still pretty good. But Antony, if Antony is playing, Rashford isn't, I think there's definitely something there. Sancho, I don't think I'd go near him personally. De Gea, I think, is, in my opinion, definitely the best goalkeeper for the rest of the season. So if you're not tripled up on Man United right now, I would seriously consider buying De Gea as your kind of goalkeeper player. You know, if you're worried about Edison minutes, if you're worried about Kepa minutes, you're looking to replace one of those players, De Gea, to me, is the goalkeeper to go for. And I don't really have too much doubt about that. YGAGA says, stop telling them about Antony. I wanted him as my differential. It's okay. We're a small community here. I'm sure that Antony will still be a differential. Don't worry too much about that. But yeah, outside of that, again, who are we really considering? No Eriksen. Nah, I don't think so. He's just not got as much upside as some of the other players. He's just not been in the role that he has been in years gone by, I guess. Dalot, rotation risk now. Shaw is back on the left side of the defence. Lindelof, I like as a cheap player. If you are super strict on budget, or you need to downgrade a player maybe to free up budget to make another transfer move, then I understand Lindelof, I guess, but I would be looking to really capitalise as much as you can on this amazing double game week that Man United have. And I would be going all in on Luke Shaw there. Who, by the way, moving back to the left-hand side of defence, he looked dangerous against Wolves. He looked really dangerous. I had him on my bench. I mean, he scored 8 points. I was watching him play. I was thinking, man, Luke Shaw is back. Luke Shaw is back right in time for the double game week. Right in time for the double game week. So I would actually say, and I said this in my video earlier, but I'll say it again here, because Luke Shaw is so cheap, so easy to get to. So many of us have got so many defenders that we're willing to sell right now. I know a lot of you guys are thinking about selling a lot of your defenders, which is fine. Defenders have been a little bit hit and miss recently, with the exception maybe of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Purvis Estupiñán. But outside of that, it's been a pretty rough time for defenders. Sell them for Luke Shaw. There is no excuse. At least with Fernandes, I know Fernandes looks like red hot right now. When you watch him play, he looks red hot. But I understand he's more difficult to get to. A 9.4 million midfielder is a more difficult transfer prospect than a 5.2 million defender. So Shaw is a no-brainer. I would get Fernandes if I could, if I was you guys. De Gea is you're definitely the goalkeeper replacement if you need a goalkeeper replacement. And outside of that, Antony is an interesting differential. And I would say that those guys there would be pretty much the extent of Man United players that we should be considering. Outside of that, I mean, some people are going to say Martial. I guess you could. Minutes are always like difficult with Martial, particularly in a double game week. Does Martial have the legs to start 2 games in a double game week? I'm not particularly convinced by that one, personally. So yeah, I wouldn't be looking at the forwards. Like Weghorst, we're not going to go for him, are we? It's these 6. I think these are the big 6 from Man United that I like the most. Fernandes and Shaw, top of that list. Rashford, if he's available, is obviously going to be up there as well. Outside of that, Anthony De Gea, I think, are good picks. And Lindelof, if you really just need that cheap player, then hey, it's not so bad. But let's have a look at some other midfielders, because I'm sure there are plenty of other midfielders that we might be thinking about. So we are going to go through them. Can we include Salah in this as a Rashford or Martinelli replacement? Probably not, just because he's so much more expensive than everyone else on the game, really. But you've got... Have you got potentially Maddison there? Potentially. Yeah, I don't know. It's been really underperforming recently. Leicester just looked tragic. Newcastle and West Ham, final 2 game weeks this season. I don't know. I'm not convinced by that one, despite his good minutes. Good numbers, sorry. Eze, playing for a Crystal Palace team with decent fixtures. Play Fulham next. Crystal Palace. He's been like, I don't know. Someone. I feel like Roy Hodgson is putting something in Eberechi Eze's porridge, because he's been on absolute flames. McNeil, probably not going to go there, to be honest. We've got McAllister, obviously, who's doing pretty well at the moment. Martinelli, we don't know if he's injured or not. Richard asked about Garnacho. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced by Garnacho. I think he's a decent player, but is he quite FPL material? I don't know if he's quite there yet. And like I said, with Manchester United, because their double game week is so good, I only want to go for the best of the best for Manchester United players. I don't want to do kind of half measures with those players. I mean, you can if you want to. If you want to take a risk on Garnacho or Martial, perhaps, then absolutely fine. Not sure. Outside of that, we got Mitoma. Ødegaard, I think, is definitely a player to consider. I'm not really too convinced by Saka at the moment. Although he did look a little bit better against Brighton. It was still a pretty difficult result. And I don't know, outside of that, where are we going? Is there any, like, single game week relegation battling players that you guys might be considering at the moment? Morgan Gibbs-White, for example, where is he on this list? He's up here. So you want to take a punt on a relegation threatened team to see if they can put in some last minute work. And that's excuse me, it's hay fever season, unfortunately. Maybe that's something to consider. Yeah, I think those are kind of probably the midfielders that I'd like the look of. Probably those guys. It's a pretty good list. It's a pretty good list of midfielders there. I think that probably pretty much covers you for midfield replacements for Rashford and Martinelli. Obviously, depending on availability, I still want to be very clear that I would not be making transfer moves early this week. I really wouldn't. I'd really want to wait and see what happens in the Man City game. I'd want to, like the Real Madrid-Man City game, I'd want to make sure we see what's going on with Newcastle and Brighton. Are there any injuries? Are there any changes in there that might indicate that we need to switch up our Brighton players perhaps? Or, Newcastle as well. What's going to be the situation there? Not sure. Who's going to be the starting striker for Newcastle? Do we need to sell Isak? Do we need to sell Wilson? Do we need to buy Isak? Do we need to buy Wilson? Remember, Newcastle play Leicester next week. I don't know how much of you guys have watched Leicester recently. I imagine a few of you guys watched the game today. But Christ alive. It's not been great. Carter Dixon says, Gibbs-White on the list, but not McNeil. Come on, Dan. Oh, you know what? For you, Carter, we'll throw in. We'll throw him in. We'll throw in McNeil. I mean, I'm not going there personally, but look, I guess you could. His underlying numbers aren't too bad. They aren't too bad. But yeah, I always have some question marks around players like McNeil who haven't shown too much historically. We have got Wolves. It is an away fixture against Wolves. Remember, Wolves away, good. Wolves at home, bad. Wait, it's the other way around. So, yeah, what I'm trying to say is when you play against Wolves and they're playing away from home, then that's not a good fixture. When you play Wolves and the Wolves are away and you're at home, then that's a great fixture because Wolves are great at home and terrible away. So this one I don't know if I love. Saying that, Wolves potentially on the beach, potentially so much on the beach that they're already checked into Gatwick Airport. They've got their swim trunks on and they're ready for a dip. I can imagine that the Wolves squad may turn up to Gameweek 37 wearing their swim trunks with their sun cream on and their lovely summer hats as well. They could be really on the beach. But still, Wolves have been good when playing at home. They have. So that does put me off a little bit. But I definitely get the appeal of going for some Everton players for these last two games. Definitely see the appeal. Definitely see the appeal. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there in terms of midfielders. Like these are probably about as far as I would go for those midfield replacements, or midfields that I would be looking to get in right now. I genuinely do like the idea of going for some relegation threatened players for the differentials. I do like the idea of that a little bit. So it's definitely it's definitely on the cards. But there we go. So that's Man City covered, Man United covered, midfielders covered. I think for the time being, that's pretty much all of the main talking points I wanted to talk about. I mean, it's only Monday to be fair, so we've got a lot of things to learn and see. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for what I want to say today. So I think we now just open it up to the crowd. Guys, what do you want to talk about? If you've got any questions or topics or numbers you want me to look up right now, let me know in the chat. And whilst we're doing that, what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look at the predicted points for game week 37. Whilst I'm waiting for you guys to pipe up in the chat. So yeah, predicted points, guys. We have Bruno Fernandes as the highest predicted points for the game week in a game week that Erling Haaland is playing in. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? And that's Erling Haaland predicted 166 minutes played as well. So that really does say something about how good Fernandes has been. Yes, he's been underperforming, but how good he's looked, how many opportunities he's getting to score, to assist. In fact, he's on penalties as well. He hasn't even had any penalties during this time as well. It's been absolutely insane from Fernandes recently that he hasn't got more FPL returns. So he's coming in as the number one predicted point. So if you trust the AI has calculated that Fernandes is going to be the best player to own in game week 37 and therefore the best player to captain. I'm thinking about it. I really am. Erling Haaland, obviously, in second here. He's always there or thereabouts. De Bruyne here as well. Mahrez here. Very interesting. I think Haaland and De Bruyne, De Bruyne in particular, I'm worried about his minutes. Mahrez, less so. We have got the likes of McAllister and Mitoma here as well. Always going to be the top Brighton options with Solly March out. So really obvious there. Foden predicted 8.5, Gundogan 8.4, Diaz 8.2, Alvarez 8. So there are some other Man City players kicking about here. Edison 7.9. But again, can we say with confidence that these players are going to play a lot of minutes? I'm not totally convinced. Luke Shaw, by the way, coming in at second in terms of the second best Man United player to own, which I can kind of understand. Anthony in third. This is obviously assuming that Rashford is out as well. So Anthony is in here as well. So a Rashford to Anthony switch or a Rashford to Mahrez switch. I think those are the two that I would be looking at going for, really. Anthony's certainly an interesting differential, though, as someone mentioned earlier. We'll try not to spoil the differential too much. All right, guys, let's have a look through the chat to see what you guys want to talk about. So the religious guy said Mitrovic. I mean, if you want to go for Mitrovic, you could. I don't know if I absolutely love it, just because Fulham have nothing to play for the rest of the season. They play Crystal Palace at home, which is an okay fixture, but not an amazing fixture. And then Manchester United away, that's a pretty dreadful fixture. So I love Mitrovic, but there's a lot of things pointing me away from him right now. Could be an interesting differential, if nothing else. Mr. Gary Glimmer says, if Fernandes got points for whinging, he'd be the best asset. Fair enough. Unfortunately, you don't. But you do get points for scoring goals and assists, and he's pretty good at doing that, even though it hasn't always come off for him recently. Amaral says, I benched Estu over Botman. Regrets. Yeah, that's painful, my friend, but it's part of the game. I don't think anyone expected Estupinian to get a goal and an assist and a clean sheet against Arsenal. Sometimes luck goes your way. Sometimes luck goes not your way. Sol LH says, Trippier and Anthony or Bruno and Lindelof, but for a hit. Yeah, I'd definitely prefer Bruno and Lindelof. That combo looks better to me. Chris W says, what would be the primary and differential captain? Well, the primary captain is going to be Erling Haaland. You know, whenever Erling Haaland plays, he is the primary captain, pretty much, unless other teams have a double game week. Now, Erling Haaland does have a double game week himself. So he's going to be the most popular captain by a long shot. And going against Erling Haaland this game week is going to be, for the brave, let's put it that way, for the brave. Like, he could destroy you if you bet against Erling Haaland this week. He could destroy your season so close to the end. Differential captains, I think the fact that, and I know he's highest predicted points, but Bruno Fernandes, remember, a lot of people play FPL in the way that they don't look into stuff in the same way as, like, I always say, us nerds do. A lot of people will be looking through the recent results and saying 6 points, 2 points, 11 points, 5 points, 3 points, 3 points, 2 points, 3 points, 2 points. Oh, this Fernandes guy is rubbish. He is not getting any FPL returns. He must be terrible. And they won't pick him. So that's advantage us. You know, this is advantage people who kind of do watch the games, who do kind of look at the underlying numbers. But a lot of people will write off Fernandes. They'll say, yeah, terrible pick. He's only got, you know, how many returns is that? He's only got 3 returns in the last, 10 game weeks. Which is true. He has. But what they might not do is watch Fernandes play. They might not kind of take into consideration the context of the games that Fernandes is playing against. The fact that Chelsea are very much on the beach and looking terrible. The fact that Bournemouth are, you know, they're safe from relegation. They won't be kind of looking at the underlying numbers that really are pointing towards Fernandes. So I feel like Fernandes, considering his ownership is not that high already. At my rank, I think Fernandes is only owned by about 25% of players. And considering how template pretty much everything is in the top 100k, there's pretty much no diversification. I imagine that more people will be looking to bring in Bruno this week, but I still think he will be a differential captain, and a very good differential captain at that. We've got Scott Gadsby in the chat, also said sure differential captain. I think that is definitely something to consider as well. So for me, Chris, Haaland is the obvious captain, the primary captain, your popular pick captain. Fernandes is going to be a really decent differential. I'm not massively happy to recommend anyone outside of that. Mahrez, rotation risk, of course, and can be a little bit hit and miss. But I guess when you get the hit, it's a good thing. You could look at the Brighton players, I guess. They play Southampton first, which is a game against a relegated team. And by the way, Brighton looked fantastic against Arsenal. The problem is with Brighton is that their attacking returns seem to be right now divided among so many different players that it's impossible to nail on one. Sometimes it's going to be McAllister, sometimes Mitoma, sometimes Undav. Sorry. Sometimes it's going to be Estupinian. Sometimes it's going to be Welbeck. Sometimes it's going to be Ferguson. Sometimes it's going to be Pascal Gross. So, you know, the list goes on and on and on of all of these players. I haven't even mentioned Enciso, Buonanotte. All of these players are sharing the FPL return. So if Brighton go and beat Southampton 3-0, the chances are the player that you've picked might not even be involved in any of those goals. We've seen that. We saw that with McAllister and Mitoma against Arsenal. They win 3-0. McAllister, zilch. Mitoma, zilch. Nothing. Nada. So that is the problem with captaining Brighton players. I think they're good players to own because they're very cheap and they have a lot of fixtures. So you're going to get the base 4 points kind of thing, which is very nice. But are they captain material? I don't think so. I prefer a talisman. I prefer a talisman for a captain. And I don't think McAllister and Mitoma are that. And I do think Fernandes and Haaland, you know, fit that bill perfectly. Now, Luke Shaw is interesting because he has changed back positions to left back. We know historically that Luke Shaw can absolutely kill it from that position. I mean, if we go back on Luke Shaw's kind of FPL scores in the past when he's been playing at left back. Reasonably decent. You know, clean sheets are always on the cards. You know, we get the odd assist here as well. How many assists has he got this season? 4 this season. Taking those corners as well. Scored a goal against Bournemouth that one time. I remember that. That was a good love. Has been playing at centre back recently, which has limited his output, but against Wolves, it started to look a little bit better. And also, Luke Shaw does pretty good for bonus points as well. He's a decent bonus points kind of player. When you get that clean sheet, you're probably going to get yourself some bonus points as well. And given the fixtures, Bournemouth and Chelsea, and the fact that Man United are doing well for clean sheets at the moment, one of few teams that are actually consistently getting clean sheets at the moment, or at least kind of consistently. They've been getting them fairly like frequently. Luke Shaw could get yourself some clean sheets, could get some bonus, could get the odd assist. But again, is he captain material? I don't know. So really for me, Erling Haaland or Bruno Fernandes, those are the two captains I think are like genuinely good captains. Outside of that, you're taking a risk. You are taking a risk. Very difficult. Carter says you put Enciso in great transfer in the tier list. Can you explain? He just looked really good against Arsenal. He's going to be nailed on now that March is out, pretty much. He looks a fantastic player, and he's super cheap as well. So I feel like, yeah, if you have an opportunity to go for Enciso right now, I probably would be doing it. I mean, we can run through some Brighton players quickly now, but if we just include everyone. But yes, if we find Enciso here, so Enciso per start is second to McAllister. And if you include the fact that McAllister is boosted up by penalties as well, Enciso technically, excluding penalties, has the best expected points per appearance, per start, than any other Brighton player recently. So Enciso, in many ways, quite literally is the best pick from Brighton. Now, he might be difficult to get to if you're already tripled up, but if you are not tripled up on Brighton, you know, some of you guys are looking for a forward, Enciso is the guy. He literally is the guy. Which is mad, I know. But he is. 4.6 million, nailed on, looks a fantastic player at the moment. Getting a lot of opportunities to score. He was the guy taking most of the shots against Arsenal. He was the guy. I mean, is Enciso even captain material? No. I mean, no, he's not. Let's be honest. But I think he's a fantastic pick. Frees up budget for other moves potentially there as well. Guys, if I had 2 Brighton players right now, I would be buying Enciso this week. He would be one of my primary transfer targets for the week. Him, Shaw, and Fernandes. Those 3 players, Enciso, Shaw, and Fernandes, I think are like the best transfers you can go for this week. And I know everyone's going to be hyping up Man City players. But there you go. I've put it out there. Reedy says, sorry to ask again, but would you rate Bruno over Rashford if we know Rashford's fit? I still think I would prefer Bruno. I mean, you only need a lucky penalty from Bruno when you already got a haul. Because Fernandes is so good on like baseline bonus points anyway. Like Bruno Fernandes gets 1 assist and he's on bonus points. I mean, I know that happened last game and he didn't get bonus points, but that was an outlier. My point is, because Bruno creates so many chances for his teammates, and, you know, he's such a good pass completion rate, good dribbles, you know, good link-up play, like everything that, you know, Bruno does builds up his bonus points just naturally without having to get attacking returns. So as soon as you get a penalty goal from Bruno, not only are you getting the points for the penalty, but you're pretty much guaranteed some bonus as well. So you only need a lucky penalty from Bruno to get a haul. Easy stuff. So yeah, I do favour Bruno right now over Rashford, even if Rashford is fit. You do get the idea that if Rashford is declared available, you may see reduced minutes from him as well, whereas Bruno Fernandes, you're going to get 90-90 from him. You're going to get 180 minutes out of a double game week player. That's always, you know, one of the first things we're looking for, right, for those double game week players is a 90-90 man. And that's exactly what Bruno Fernandes is. So, yeah, I think he's a reasonably good player to buy this week. Well, a really good player to buy this week. And a potential captain option. Zizo says, would you sell Isak or Wilson for Enciso? Zizo, yes, I think I would sell one of those. I'm not exactly sure which one. I guess I think it's going to depend on the game later on in the week. If Isak and Wilson play together again, then I have no idea what's going on. If Isak starts, then maybe that means Wilson is more likely to play the following game. It's so difficult. Whoever starts out of Wilson and Isak in the central striker position against Leicester in game week 37, you want them, right? Without a shadow of a doubt, you want that player. But they are risky, both of them. Maybe we'll get a better idea by the time the deadline rolls around. But yeah, I think there is potential to sell a Wilson or an Isak for Enciso. I definitely think there's potential there. I'd be more likely to sell the likes of Watkins. Tony is supposedly done for the season now. There's definitely a few other forwards. You know, if you've still got Jossa kicking about, I would sell all of these players for Enciso. Kane, perhaps not. And Newcastle strikers, yeah, it's going to depend on if we think either of them are going to play. Or one of them, which one's going to play against Leicester. Because you kind of want that, right? Carter Dixon says, any single game week players you would play over double game week players, like Man City midfielders? I would be between Wilson and Grealish in my team. Yeah, it depends if you think they're going to play. Depends if you think they're going to play. Emil says, would you sell Ake? What's his fitness situation right now? He's okay at the moment, isn't he? Oh no, he's yellow flagged now. Okay, I thought he was back. Yeah, let's see what the situation is against Real Madrid. If he doesn't play against Real Madrid, maybe if he's on the bench against Real Madrid, I think there is actually potential for Ake to get some minutes under his belt in the double game week, to be fair. I don't know. I don't think I would sell him unless he's declared out. But you could always bench him, I guess, if you wanted to. Kane definitely not. 27 goals this season. It's one of his best. It is, yeah. Kane on absolute fire. A really underappreciated season from Harry Kane. Callum says, if Rashford is fully out, will you do him for Gundogan -4 or Bruno and take another hit for Greenwood? I prefer Bruno Fernandes to Gundogan, definitely. James says, what to do if you still have March? I'd sell him. I'd sell him for one of the midfielders we spoke about earlier on in the stream, hopefully. Luke Tay says, please wake up and smell the coffee. Foden over anyone else this double game week. Luke, you crack on, my friend. I will not be going there personally. Edison to De Gea, says Henning. Yeah, I kind of like that. I am a little bit worried about Edison. I say that as an owner. Tom Wood says, double up on Man United defence with De Gea and Shaw. I think if you have De Gea, Shaw and Fernandes, that's assuming Rashford's out, that's, you know, pretty much as good as you can get in terms of a trio from Man United. So I have no problem with doubling up on the Man United defence. De Gea and Shaw, I think, are both fantastic FPL options. Fantastic FPL options. So, yeah. I think we're going to probably almost leave it there. I've got one more good question from Eco Eva. I have seen a few more of your questions, but they're back. I do apologise, guys. I think, yeah, the internet just died. But anyway, yeah, there's a few kind of questions in the chat, but they're like really long questions that only seem to apply to one person. But there is a really good general question here from Eco Eva, who says, best strikers for Game Week 37, Dan. We will have a look at them, and then we'll wrap things up. But yeah, I do apologise for the little drop in internet there. Don't know why that happened. Bit of weird. Okay, let's just straight up look at some numbers. And then we'll have a look at some predicted points. So, forwards, expected points. Let's kind of ignore some of these players, like Morpay, Iheanacho. I mean, could you go for Morpay? Would you consider Morpay if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is out? Is there potential to go for more pay. I mean, I'm not going to do it personally. He's my rival. He's my arch nemesis of this YouTube channel, so I won't. But maybe some of you will. Iheanacho, minutes. Daka, minutes. Harry Kane, Wilson, obviously. And Mbeumo should be starting the remainder of the games for Brentford, but does play Man City in 38. Who did Brentford play next game week? I've forgotten. Let's have a look. Brentford play against Spurs away. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know. Spurs are terrible, to be fair. All right, we'll keep Mbeumo in there here for now. Martial, risky, but why not? Enciso, Jesus, Isaac Watkins. I guess Mitrovic is in this conversation. Awoniyi, Ferguson. Although I genuinely do prefer, if you're going to go for a Brighton player, I do genuinely prefer, what's his name? Enciso to Ferguson. Let's include Mitrovic if I can find him as well, as like a bit of an outside punt. All right. I think this is probably the extent of forwards that I would be thinking about going for. I mean, it would be nice to have a Newcastle striker against Leicester, but which one is it going to be? I don't know. Maybe take a risk there. Maybe that's an opportunity to take a risk on Wilson or Isaac, or just keep them and play them rather than sell them. But yeah, I think really my favourites here are Enciso, and that's pretty much it. The rest are pretty punty. Obviously, like, Haaland and Kane are just, like, always amazing. So, yeah, obviously they are absolutely fine. Enciso, I think Jesus is possibly a player to consider. Possibly. If we just go slightly more recently, I think Jesus may drop off a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, Mbeumo possibly playing through the middle on pens. Will Mbeumo be on pens? I can't remember who took the penalty last time Tony was out. I think it was Mbeumo, wasn't it? Maybe someone can remind me in the chat. Yeah, I think these are the kind of forwards I'll be looking at. But, I mean, there's a lot of players that, you know, I'm not so convinced by. Watkins, Martial, Ferguson. Am I realistically going there? Probably not. Awoniyi overperforming quite a lot recently. Lot to play for, though. Yeah, let's get rid of some of these players and try and reduce this a little bit. I guess this is where I'm at. You guys are saying Mbeumo is on penalties, by the way. That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you for verifying. Yeah, this is pretty much where I'm going. I think Wilson, if we can get Wilson starting against Leicester, he is the guy. He is the man. He is the single game week player of the week. But we don't know. We don't know if he's going to start or not. Isn't Enciso injured? I don't think so. I think it was just a dead leg, so he should be absolutely fine. Of course, we'll know by Thursday either way, won't we? There we go, though, guys. I think we'll probably leave it there. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But anyway, yeah, this is where my team is at the moment. We've got a lot of Doritos. We'll sort that out as the week goes by. But yeah, if you've got any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section when this is uploaded as a stream replay, aka a video. Make sure you do leave a like before you disappear. I would really appreciate that, because it really does help out the channel a lot. And yeah, do subscribe if you're new around here. I'll give a little shout out to my Twitter as well. I need to start shouting it out on actual videos rather than just streams. But we're closing in on 100,000 followers on Twitter. It would be amazing if we could hit that by the end of this season. If not, no worries. I'm sure we'll get there eventually. I'll be a bit more patient. But yeah, there we go, guys. Thank you so much for joining me with the stream today. I'll see you tomorrow for buy, sell, keep, avoid. Always a fun video to do. We're going to try and do some controversial ones tomorrow, as always. Only a couple of game weeks left, guys. Let's enjoy it. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this stream today, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.